Hello, guys. So we are going to do a new project here. I will record parts of this series when it is convenient to me. It is a project about how the past masters of internal alchemy thought, according to their own writings. So, internal alchemy is a popular school of meditation from China. It is largely contained within the Daoist religion, although certainly there are people outside of the Daoist religion who also practice internal alchemy. The key ideas of the style are that there is latent ability to cultivate the original creative energy of the universe through meditation, and that energy can ultimately lead to us becoming liberated and forming a secondary spiritual body, which is able to live outside of the main body and perhaps ultimately go on to be eternal. So this is let's say the general religious beliefs of internal alchemy as a practice. I leave it to you to decide how much you find credible in those claims. But nevertheless, internal alchemy was initially first popularized by Lu Dongbin, the fellow in the painting that you see in front of you. And well, his life is very interesting. I think that you can probably find information about it that will be more interesting to you than I could provide you in this video. There are certainly many stories about Lu Dongbin, the Yellow Millet Dream, how he met his teacher Han Zhongli, all of his various exploits with Bai Mudan and the Eight Immortals, and this, that, and the other thing. But we are going to keep it inside of the rails of practice for our discussion, because I am personally relatively more interested in practice than I am in stories. And beyond that, there are people who tell stories much, much better than I do. Okay, so Lu Dongbin, we don't really know if he really left us any documents. We suppose that the main alchemical document that he left behind, if we're looking at history rather than looking at hagiography, okay, if we're looking at history, the one document which we suppose he probably left behind is called the Lu Zu Bai Zi Bei, the Lu Ancestor 100 words Steele. So it's a carving on stone. Now, certainly, if it were written as Lu Zu, right, Lu Ancestor, then this would have been written by somebody perhaps posthumously. But nevertheless, this document is associated with Lu Dongbin. There are other documents as well. There's a whole slew of Daoist documents which are associated with him, and some people also associate the internal alchemy document, The Secret of the Golden Flower, with Lu Dongbin, as it was purported that it was ghostwritten. So Lu, his spirit came to participate in the ghostwriting of that document. But of course, these are hagiographic claims rather than being concrete historical claims. So I will leave that for the historians and for the religious community to discuss amongst themselves. But the Baizi, which is ostensibly contains 100 characters. I haven't checked carefully, but that's what they say. It is a very terse, basic document about how to practice the Golden Elixir. At the time of Lu Dongbin, his school of meditation was called, or I guess after the fact, his school of meditation was called the Zhonglu Jindan Da Dao Pai. So the Zhong, it means Han Zhongli. That's the person who is claimed to be his teacher. Lu is Lu Dongbin. Jindan means golden elixir, and Da Dao means the great way, and then Pai means sect or school of thought, or etc. Right? Okay, so this school of thought, it predates what we conventionally call Neidan. What happened as a result of Lu Dongbin's practice is that many Daoist people, became interested in what he was saying, and they sought to establish their own schools of meditation. Whereupon they, worked on various different theories, made their own documents, and then promoted their thought to their disciples. But during that period, during the Tang Dynasty, the schools were not very standardized, and there's quite a lot of different thoughts going on in the schools. So some popular schools from that time would have been uh, the, uh, the school of thought brought to us with the text Lingbao Bifa and Zhonglu Chuandaoji. So these are two texts written by the same person. The Bifa is very famous, obviously, and then the Chuandaoji also, right? These are both proto Neidan documents, or you can say Zhendan documents. But the method of practice that they espouse is perhaps a little bit more mechanical in nature than Neidan would eventually become once it was well organized by Zhang Boduan, who's considered largely to be the founder of the Neidan Southern School. So, nevertheless, there were other alchemical documents from the Tang period that were also quite good. Ruyongjing being one of them. This is the daily use classic, but also incidentally, there are others as well. The typifying feature of the majority of them is that they're relatively terse, and when they're terse, it is more difficult to criticize them, of course, because they haven't told us everything that they thought about practice. Probably the most outstanding document from that period is Ru Yao Jing entering the medicine mirror by Duke Cui. They call him Gentleman Cui or Duke Cui. And that is, it takes the form of a long poem, and it is, I think it's a broadly very accurate alchemical document for practice. But we must start with the start, which is Lu Ancestor. So the Baizi Bei is taken as the foundational document of internal alchemy. There is really no document which is more foundational than this. When I was studying internal alchemy initially, so I've been studying under the same teacher, Master Haiyang, who's based out of Montreal, Canada. I've been studying with him for over 20 years and studied Taoism with him since 2011. The first internal alchemy document that he taught me was the Baizi Bei. Incidentally, I continue to read and be interested in this document and look at various annotations. It is a truly influential document in Daoist thought, and the Golden Elixir school was a completely separate school from any of the major schools of Taoism at that time, so the Shangqing school, Lingbao school, etc., and it predated the Chuanzhen school, which is well known today under the Longmen sect. So completely independent school of thought, principally associated with meditation practice for the purposes of enlightenment, liberation, and ostensibly cultivating immortality. Okay, so today we set out with a very, very humble mission. We don't need to do too much. I just want to get you some familiarity with what Lu Dongbin was thinking and perhaps relate it to the Dao De Jing a little bit, since the Dao De Jing is the base text for all internal alchemy schools. Okay, so the very first line of the Baizi Bei says, Yang qi wang yan shou, jiang xin wei bu wei. Okay, so yang qi, literally, nurture the qi. Wang yan, literally, forget to say. Shou, protect or guard. Jiang xin, direct the heart. Wei bu wei, action without action. So if we take it in very literal terms, it's nurturing qi, forget to speak, protect, direct the heart to action without action. However, we have to go a little bit more deeply into this subject in order for it to make sense. Because if you were to just look at it as such, you might come to the conclusion that all you need to do is just sit quietly and don't do anything, and then your chi body will transform. This is certainly not the case. So it's important to understand in Taoism how the character qi is used. The character qi can be used in a number of different ways. And even by the lifetime of Lu Dongbin, there was already a fairly sophisticated concept of qi in the Taoist world. For earlier reference materials, you can look at the, I believe it's the North-South Dynasty period text, which is entitled Yangxing Yanminglu, so Nurturing Nature and Extending Life collection, which has a very, very complex series of chapters or essays about the nature of qi. And Chinese medicine at that time also had a very sophisticated approach to understanding qi. However, Lu Dongbin does not tell us what he means by qi here. So the way that we can find out what he might have meant, or at least what internal alchemy practitioners were thinking over the years, would be by reading various annotations. But I will jump you ahead to the front of the queue in this particular context, and I will mention that, broadly speaking, qi has perhaps 3 potential meanings that we could use in various ways. So one of the meanings of qi means breath. Indeed, the character qi is made up of the character for gas or vapor and the character for rice. So this is a kind of vapor with a nutritive quality. The breath, indeed, is a kind of vapor with a nutritive quality, if you want to look at it that way. So yang qi, in one context, could mean nurturing the breath. In another context, qi could mean the yuan qi of the body, the pre-heaven original qi of the body. This is a more difficult concept in Taoism. If you have studied Chinese medicine, I recommend to you right now to not think about it in a Chinese medicine context, because the idea of yuan qi in Chinese medicine and in Taoist practice is somewhat different. The basic idea is that this is a kind of prenatal energy which goes into the construction of the body during gestation and is left over after birth. It is able to suffuse the deeper meridians of the body and serves as a kind of background energy for us. So we predominantly have sort of 2 major forms of qi that make up for the life systems of the body and become different kinds of qi. Yuan qi, or original qi, being one of them, and then the qi of food and grains and water, so to speak, being the other one. But in the context of Taoist practice, yuan qi is a kind of qi that we cultivate, and its location is approximately in the kidney area. Now, kidney here probably means the general area of the lower abdomen, because kidney is taken to be the organs of the kidneys, the bladder, and the external genitals. The reason being that this is a system in the body that deals with waste fluid, basically. So the kidneys obviously are processing blood, removing waste from them, and putting them in urine, or the urine is the processed material from the blood, and off they go through the bladder and out the genitals, right? So the idea of kidneys can include these three organs. Indeed, this is something which is alluded to in the Zhonglu Chuandaoji, which is a book that by Shi Jian. What's the name? I want to say Shi Jian Ye, but I'm pretty sure it's not. Anyway, the key point is that a later thinker wrote about the Lu Dongbin's practice as he supposed it to be, and he said that indeed it's the bladder and the kidneys are both functioning, right, as aspects of the energetic physiology of the body. Okay, very roundabout way to say the belief is that somewhere in the lower abdomen there's contained a certain amount of original qi which makes up some aspect of the vitality of our body, and that qi is also related to essence of the body, the essence being the actual original physical structure that comes about as a result of the union of two parent sexual materials at conception. However, I do not believe that this passage is referring to yuan qi. The main reason for that is because in the early days of internal alchemy, there is significantly less mention of yuan qi as a concept, and generally more mention of spirit and essence merging together to generate the true qi, right? So this may not be the meaning. Okay, another possible meaning, the qi of the Tao. So the qi of the Tao is considered to be even before the creation of the body, and this is something that we can take by meditating deeply in certain ways, returning the mind back to nothingness, and then it's believed that the Tao qi, which is the same qi that creates the universe, will be generated inside of our bodies, and it will suffuse the meridian system and so on and so forth. I believe that there is some possibility that this is a latent idea in the text, and certainly a number of later annotations will certainly make such a claim. It is also entirely possible that ideas like this and yuan qi were prevalent in discussions in these internal alchemy circles early on, but were not written down because of the secrecy of the tradition. That is also a completely possible thing. So it could be any of those three types of qi: breath, yuan qi, or the qi of the Tao. I do not believe that it's the same qi that we would usually talk about in qigong, which is a kind of a somatic or tactile type of qi. This is an idea which came about much, much, much later. So my personal proclivity would be to say that it can and does work on any of the three levels I mentioned. When you meditate, you start by nurturing your breath. You enter into a non-action state. Once you enter into the non-action state, then gradually you disappear into profound meditation. During that time, this is certainly stimulating whatever it is in the lower abdomen. They use the term yuan qi to talk about it, but my impression is that this could be related to the nervous system. I know that my teacher had mentioned to me in the past that he thought it could be related to hormones, the nervous system. There could be many, many good explanations for what this yuan qi material is. Nobody ever really said that clearly in the past, so we can certainly speculate about it today. So it certainly does touch that level. And then in terms of the Dao Qi, for some reason, when we disappear into the non-action state of meditation, it causes a physiological change. And if you want to use Dao Qi to describe it, then certainly that seems perfectly reasonable to me. So any of those three levels, and all of those three levels, I believe, are probably what is meant by yang qi, nurture the qi. Wang yan, forget to speak. Okay, so forget to speak, obviously you forget to speak outwardly with your mouth when you're in deep meditation, but I personally believe this also means forget to think. Or perhaps even if you take it more broadly, it would mean enter into a state where there is no apparent cognitive recognition of anything, right? You want the attention and the breath to merge together in the lower abdomen and to be very, very gentle, like how Lao Tzu says in the Tao Te Ching, chapter 10, right? Focusing the breath on the utmost of softness. Shi Jianwu was the name of the author of, anyway. So focus the breath on the utmost of softness and become like a child. So this is the same kind of idea here. You would breathe to your lower abdomen, become very, very gentle, very soft, enter into deep meditation, and forget your whole cognitive apparatus, including, how you think in words, how you think in pictures. All gone, just deep meditation. Everything is completely contained in the lower abdomen, and then everything disappears. And then shou means to protect. The way I was originally taught this document was yang qi wang yan shou means to nurture the qi, forget to say protect. So I will leave this open for your consideration of whether it says forget to say protect or forget to speak protect. I'm not partial to either, but this would be certainly either of those have approximately the same meaning. What does protect mean? Well, some articles I've read online say that protect means protect the one, right? Protecting the one refers to practice in which you meditate and enter into a state of mental unity, and that mental unity is a combination basically of a location in the body with the breath and the mind. They merge together and they generate something called the true mind, which in this particular context is the entry into a profound, deep, dark, remote, obscure state of meditation in which there is no sense of self present, right? So this would be the oneness that you would protect. And you would maintain that state for a certain period of time. Okay, the next part, jiang xin wei bu wei. So jiang xin means direct your heart. It means direct your mind. Right? So you direct your mind to wei bu wei, action without action. Action without action is an idea which is taken from the Tao Te Ching. Incidentally, what it means is that the action is spontaneous and natural. So if you want to nurture the qi, there are two key points. One point is to forget to speak or to forget cognitive activities and maintain that state. This is coming about while you're nurturing the breath. The second is that you should enter into a state of non-action and you should allow nature to take care of itself, right? Let the activity of the body be spontaneous. And so from the perspective of internal alchemy practice, the key point is that we are trying to stabilize the mind and the body, and the breath is used as a means by which to anchor the mind into the body so that the mind can enter into a place of stillness and calm, and so that we can enter into this self-forgetting state, which is the foundation for the alchemical transformation that will happen in Neidan or Jindan practice. However, having said that, it is perfectly feasible that we might also do this in a different way. So the modern Qigong thinker, who also was a Neidan practitioner, Pang Ming, said in one of his lectures that there are two typical ways of practicing Neidan. One way is through this kind of non-action, self-forgetting way, and the other way is focusing the mind on a state of unitary oneness and maintaining that state. This is why there are commonly considered to be two major branches of Neidan, one of which being called the Yin-Xian school, which is mainly focused on using self-forgetting as the primary method, and the other called the Xiaoyang school, which is focused on this sort of oneness of concentration, which is modulated by the breath and by the mind, according to the concept of fire timing. This is another topic which we can discuss later when we get to practitioners of both of those schools. Lu Dongbin is the original ancestor. It's hard to know exactly what he was thinking because he only left us 100 words on the matter. And many of the other documents which are attributed to him, it is unclear whether these are authentic, and some of them are almost certainly not. So I would argue that if you want to grasp the very basic idea about what Lu Dongbin probably thought, he probably believed that by meditating and nurturing the breath within the body, and he does mention the sort of abdominal area a little later in the document, probably through that practice, then it would be possible to enter into a state of non-action, which is very in keeping with Taoism, and then ultimately to have your mind disappear, and for this to be how the energy would be cultivated spontaneously and without our own interference. Then, of course, the result of that is explained a little later in the poem. So inevitably, in this section of the poem, it is really just about how you set up the foundational aspect of the practice, and then in the later part of the poem, it would be about what you should expect and how you should respond to phenomena that occur in practice. Now, having said that, again, the Ancestor Steele is only 100 characters, and it is not a textbook. It was doubtless designed for people who were in the know to be able to use and to give to their disciples so that they would be able to keep key points and mnemonics about practice. This would have also probably accompanied various oral formulas and various different types of teaching, which are variously available depending on your luck in finding a teacher who understands them and will tell them to you. But in any event, if I had to recommend a very basic practice to you, the very basic practice that you could derive from this document would be to sit calmly in a comfortable position. Place your attention on your breath. Your breath comes and goes through your nose, totally silently. Breathe so that your inhalation arrives at your lower abdomen, and when you exhale, allow your mind to relax into your lower abdomen area. And allow your attention to increasingly mix together with the breath, becoming softer and softer until you gradually enter into a state of profound darkness and stillness and silence. And just keep doing that and go deeper and deeper into the silence and stillness, and eventually you will forget that you exist. Typically, the breath is contained in the lower abdomen. This is a very good place to practice from. There are other ways to practice too, but this one is very reliable and popular and safe. Certainly, if you are interested in taking up these practices, I have a number of fascinating courses on my Gumroad, which I'll link to a couple of them in the description below, and certainly they would be interesting places to start should you like to learn more about internal alchemy practice. In any event, thank you very, very much for joining me, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next one, which I feel will probably be either about Shijian Wu or maybe a little later about Zhang Buduan, both of them being very important figures in the development of internal alchemy. Okay, till then, bye bye.